Shadow Hack. Chapter 91, Rich Fools, Come Quickly. Quickly check the online forum of the dimensional battlefield. Tang Ruokan, who had been silent for many days, has come online. What are you making a fuss about? Li Yun had defeated that guy long ago, why are you still so infatuated with him? That's not it. He has issued a challenge towards Li Yun on the online forum just now. So this guy, who had been defeated previously, had been unable to stand that loss and wants to battle again after so many days. What? Then has Li Yun agreed to his challenge? Still not. I think he will accept after he is done with this battle. Humph, he dares to find trouble for my Yun Yun. That retard is simply asking to be humiliated. However, even after getting rid of the current opponent, Li Yun still hadn't accepted Tang Ruokan's challenge. It wasn't that he refused, but Li Yunmu truly didn't care about this stupid pompous boy. At this moment, Li Yunmu, who was spectating Li Feng's fight, had also heard about the spirited discussions. However, he didn't pay much attention to it. While using the hack, only if he had been hit on the head would he go looking for a fight with those top 10 most formidable with his present strength. Not to mention the fact that he now knew that those top 10 most powerful do not actually represent the top 10 most powerful. The truly powerful newcomer Fluxers were not put in the limelight. After ignoring the commotion around him, Li Yunmu concentrated his attention on the fight in front of him, where Li Feng was making rapid improvements. From the beginning, where he required 18 minutes against a silver crystal Fluxer that had opened 4 flux points, after experiencing countless fights, he had lowered the amount of time required to settle the fight to 10 minutes. Just at this moment, Li Daxiang called his stellar COMM again. Yunmu, my brother, I have been waiting for you for long. Come fast, we have lost miserably this time. Li Yunmu looked at the stellar COMM and then checked that the hack of both shadows was running smoothly. After checking on the shadows, he didn't stay at Li Feng's spectator zone anymore and asked Li Daxiang to invite him to join their battle squad. Regarding the fights between battle squads, Li Yunmu was filled with expectations. Unfortunately, he only had 2 shadows right now. Otherwise, if he had enough shadows to form a 5-man shadow squad, then he could obtain space elements more efficiently. At this moment, at the location of the Big Bear battle squad, Li Daxiang and others were standing with furious expressions on their faces. Who knows what sort of bad luck had fallen on them today. With the steel castle flying towards the next target, they found a lot of idle time on their hands and decided to enter the dimensional battlefield and gain some military achievements. At the start, everything was good. It was natural that their group would lose some fights. However, they were winning more than they were losing. But some time ago, Li Daxiang suddenly received a challenge from some other battle group of mysterious origin. Big Xiang's group of 3 had recently learned A-grade battle skills and had gained confidence after winning some fights, so he didn't consider much before accepting. However, they lost miserably in this battle. Furthermore, this loss was even more unbearable for Big Xiang and Crooked Teeth Jiang as Li Ziyi and Zhang Kai had joined their squad for today. Losing the fight in such a miserable fashion, furthermore, also involving 2 women in such a defeat. This was a complete loss of face. Still won a fight? What an annoying bunch of noobs *ts. Even after losing a few times, you still couldn't accept your loss. Pa, you stupid foo *ks. Don't think that just because you've learned some A-grade battle skills, you have become some sort of champions. Even if morons like you learn some battle skills, what about your battle talent? Ha ha ha. You can't even use the skills you learned properly. Ha ha, Ling Shuang has already returned back to Fenghua City. Without the backbone Ling Shuang, your Big Bear battle squad is just *T. Hello, 2 beauties. Why don't you join our squad? Otherwise, you will continuously be oppressed by following these 3 idiots who only know how to waste money. F***ck your mother, come once again. I have already called someone. If you have guts, then wait for us. Crooked Teeth Jiang was unable to bear this loss of face, especially after they had tried to take liberties with Zhang Kai and Li Ziyi. He instantly talked back. All right then, we will wait another few minutes. Let's see who you have called. Don't tell me, it is that Li Yunmu? Without him, you all would have certainly died in the hands of the dwarf witches. Both sides continued to trash talk. However, Big Bear Battle Squad continued to get anxious. What about Yunmu, why hasn't he come? I have already sent the invitation twice. He has probably encountered some opponent on the battlefield. Oh, he came. Elder brother Yunmu. Our Big Bear Battle Squad's backbone has finally arrived. Suddenly a silhouette was transferred to the dimensional battlefield. When the people of Big Bear Battle Squad saw who it was clearly, they felt as if they were looking at their white knight. Crooked Teeth Jiang even jumped towards him. Get lost, you rascal! Li Yunmu advanced forward and used insect step to sidestep, dodging Crooked Teeth Jiang, who was jumping towards him. After sweeping a glance at the whole scene, he asked. So what's going on here? When he looked at the scene, he discovered to his surprise that even Li Ziyi and Zhong Ying were also here. On the opposite end of the battlefield, there was another group of people, which also appeared to be a battle squad. Looking at the situation, both groups of people seemed to have drawn their blades towards each other and were waiting to fight. We all had thought of using the free time until the Steel Castle reaches the next training ground to practice the A-grade battle skills we had learned. In the beginning, everything went fine, but for some reason, these people concentrated their attention on us. By now, they have already beaten us a few times. Big Xiong's face darkened and he mumbled as if trying to hide something. Is that true? When Li Yunmu saw the faces of the idiot trio filled with guilt, he immediately realized that these fools are still hiding something and haven't told the complete truth. They didn't admit defeat even after losing several times and have lost few 100,000 dimensional coins by now. Li Ziyi suddenly spoke up. I don't care about the money. The more Li Daxing spoke, the quieter he became. Rich fools. What did rich fools look like? Exactly like this. Li Yunmu continued to silently observe the group of Big Xiong. Four-eyed Brother Thin was still quite alright, but Li Daxing and Crooked Teeth Jiang were complete idiots. During a fight, both victory and loss were possible outcomes. Also, it was useless to accept the challenge again directly after losing. As long as they didn't accept, the other party couldn't keep watching them for the whole time. Since they were weaker, they were sought by the other party to cause trouble for them. But these morons still accepted their challenge. What kind of mental illness did these guys have? Furthermore, this illness didn't seem to be a light one. They actually dared to gamble? Hello, are you all still coming or not? If you are not coming, then this elder brother will go. We don't have a lot of time to waste on stupid fools like you. The opposite party yelled again. Come, this time we make a large bet. We will exchange one person and bet 100,000. With Li Yunmu's arrival, Crooked Teeth Jiang's confidence instantly soared as he immediately raised the bet. Hee, you look for a helper as soon as you find someone you couldn't beat? However, since you all have exchanged for a person, then for the purpose of fairness, we will also be changing one person. The 5 people in the enemy squad exchanged a meaningful glance with each other and then smiled faintly. Success, the fish had finally taken the bait. No problem. Before Li Yunmu or anyone else could speak, Li Daxing yelled loudly and started laughing. He was fully confident of winning now as there wasn't much disparity between their strength and enemy squad's strength. Now that Li Yunmu had come, Big Xiong's idiot trio immediately became much bolder. Let alone speak of 100,000, they were ready to bet even 300,000 on this fight. As for the enemy changing one person, Big Xiong and other 2 idiots started to smile, showing all their teeth. So what if the enemy changes one person? They all knew that their Yunmu had even fended against a half-step golden crystal fluxer and had escaped unscathed against his attacks. So if you want to change, then change. Who gives A.F.*C.K? However, after a long while, when the new person of the enemy battle squad was finally transferred to the battlefield, the wide grin on the faces of the idiot trio was frozen. Chapter 92, Snow Guzzle Cold Blade. 100,000 is too little. If you want to bet, you must bet big. I have a Snow Guzzle Cold Blade here that's built from the cold essence and black blood mine from the Sky Mountain. Although it couldn't be compared to A-grade runed weapons, it can at least be classified as a B-grade weapon. What do you think? The silhouette that said this just now slowly walked over, gradually revealing his identity together with a dazzling sharp-edged blade which he inserted into the ground. Tang Ruokan, you are Tang Ruokan. The expressions of the idiot trio became unsightly. Zhong Ying was also startled. Li Ziyi, however, seemed to have thought of something and looked at Li Yunmu anxiously. Finally, all of them understood that the battle squad causing trouble for them didn't actually care about them. Rather, it was just to draw out Li Yunmu. In fact, as the students of the same courtyard, how could Li Daxing, Li Ziyi and them not be aware of Li Yunmu's circumstances? However, everyone has their own secrets. Since Li Yunmu didn't want to talk about it, no one went around asking. Li Yunmu's violent blade skill had earned great fame after Li Yun had used it to defeat many of the top 10 most formidable. Today, Tang Ruokan's sudden appearance must certainly be because of Li Yunmu. After all, given other parties' status and background, they wouldn't stoop so low as to create trouble for Li Daxing and them. Although it was unpleasant to hear, Li Daxing and them didn't have the qualifications. Although both Lucky Wind City and Heavenly Dragon City fell under the command of Heavenly Cloud City, the difference between the son of Lucky Wind City's richest person and that of Heavenly Dragon Tang family was the same as the difference between heaven and earth. Lucky Wind City was situated at the coast. The climate was extremely cold, the land was barren, and because it was situated near the sea, it constantly faced the attacks of evolved beasts and dimensional beasts from the sea. Thus, Lucky Wind City's comprehensive strength belonged to the lowest tier among the 136 cities governed by Heavenly Cloud City. However, Heavenly Dragon City was different. It was one of the towns situated closest to Heavenly Cloud City. Not only was its geographical location one of the safest, it was also extremely prosperous. Thus, it constantly expanded and was currently several times larger than Lucky Wind City. Heavenly Dragon City could be considered as second only to the 7 major cities. Belonging to the largest family of Heavenly Dragon City, the Tang family, Tang Ruokan's status was much higher than the son of a merchant from Lucky Wind City. Thus, Tang Ruokan hadn't paid any attention to Big Xiong's group from the start. Not only that, he only briefly looked towards Li Ziyi, whose beauty could be said to belong to the highest level. At this moment, Tang Ruokan's gaze was fully concentrated on Li Yunmu. Li Yunmu remained silent for a long time. Then he looked at the snow guzzle blade inserted in the ground near the opponent. He couldn't deny that Tang Ruokan had acted extremely cleverly. He had carefully checked Li Yunmu's situation. Otherwise, he certainly wouldn't have come and gambled a cold blade built using the highest quality materials. Although this snow guzzle blade was only considered a B-grade weapon, its potential and value far surpassed other B-grade weapons. If Tang Ruokan had found some rune engraving flux master to carve runes on it, then it would certainly be classified as an A-grade runed war blade. Furthermore, if a soldier's soul could also be refined and inserted into it, then this blade would certainly be upgraded to the pinnacle of rune treasure blade. It was perfect for Li Yunmu to use the Dwarf Witch King's resentful soul. If he could refine and insert the soul into it, then it might even surpass the highest quality treasure blades existing in the 5th dimension. Precisely speaking, this Tang Ruokan had dropped a bait which was extremely enticing for Li Yunmu right from the start. It was extremely hard for Li Yunmu to reject this weapon, and the other party understood this. After all, even though Li Yunmu had the sage bow containing the soul of an underworld raven king of the 7th dimension, the weapon he was presently most proficient with was still the war blade. Furthermore, the war blade of the battle soldier equipment could only be classified as a C-grade weapon at best. Last time, when the shadows were battling with the dwarf Witch King, if he had a war blade of higher quality, then it certainly wouldn't have broken so easily. A good quality war blade was one of the most basic needs of blade users. As long as he had a blade in his hand, the world was his. The temptation was extremely difficult for Li Yunmu to refuse, making him unable to decline the offer. A cold blade made from pinnacle quality ore, calculating its value was also extremely difficult. However, the gamble of the snow Guzzle blade made him mull over what should he take out to match the bet. The battle hatchets he had obtained from the dwarf Witch King? That would be foolish. They were genuine fifth-dimensional treasure weapons of the highest grade. If it wasn't for Li Yunmu's nature being incompatible with heavy blade techniques, then he would have used them for himself. Since that wasn't the case, he couldn't allow them to see the light of day until he learns a technique suitable for them. He must give up instant gratification for long-term benefit. But apart from those hatchets, he had no weapon of equal grade to bet. Witch Fiend's energy? That also wouldn't do. This Witch Fiend's energy couldn't be used as a stake. After all, dark flux energy was far more valuable than a B-grade war blade. B-grade war blade? That won't do as the stakes, as we don't have the capital to match it. How can we nobodies compare to young Master Tang? At this moment, Li Daxiang finally acted like a decent person. Although usually kept shooting his mouth, this time, he promptly shook his head to reject the opponent's proposal. At least, being the son of the richest person in the city, he wasn't a complete idiot and understood his limitations, as the other party's status was far higher than his. Moreover, Li Daxiang also wasn't a fool and knew that Tang Ruokan was just using this bet to trap Yunmu. You don't need to bet anything. If you beat me, then this war blade will be yours. Even if you lose, this war blade will still be yours. Tang Ruokan seemed to have been prepared for every situation. You mean regardless of whether we lose or win, we will obtain this war blade? Zhong Ying's mouth opened widely in astonishment. She was completely unable to understand the thoughts of this proud son of heaven. That's right, as long as I can persuade Li Yun to appear and have a battle with you. Correct. Li Yunmu didn't have the patience to continue with the other party's act. Since he started using the super shadow hack, it was his exclusive privilege. Ha ha ha, intelligent people make the conversation easier. Unfortunately, the second young master of Tang family, Tang Ruokan, hadn't understood this. Thereupon, Li Yunmu glanced at the other party with a complicated expression and said after a long while. All right, I agree. So quickly? Are you certain that you can influence Li Yun to come out and battle? If you didn't believe it, then you wouldn't have schemed so much to make me agree to call him for battle. Come then, as a man, you must be itching to battle. Li Yunmu was getting annoyed with other parties' nonsense. Although the idiot trio was afraid of other parties' status, that doesn't mean he was. Being the only person who possessed the shadow hack in the whole world, he was bound to stand at the pinnacle of this world's food chain. Thus, he could not live in fear. Since the opponent had schemed to draw him out, then he shouldn't be blamed for being ruthless. He had once heard from the system that by absorbing space elements twice from the same person within 10 days, it could cause that person's cultivation to become extremely unstable. A backlash might even occur and that person's cultivation could be entirely wasted. This was the main reason why Li Yunmu had deliberately chosen to enter dimensional matchmaking and allowed the system to meddle, since he didn't want to hurt others. The system's interference made sure that no same person would be his opponent for the second time. Who could have known that his kind intentions would go to waste with the appearance of Tang Ruokan, who wanted to make his comeback? Since Tang Ruokan wanted to give him the snow Guzzle blade, then Li Yunmu couldn't do anything but accept it. In any case, he was the second son of Heavenly Dragon City's Tang family, cultivating from the start for the second time shouldn't be difficult for him. Good, clear, and straightforward answer. Then allow me to first deal with you, Li Yun's fellow disciple. Then I will go battle with that Li Yun. I, Tang Ruokan, will completely wash away the shame I had to face last time. Haha, sure. Li Yunmu faintly laughed at the opponent. Even representing Big Bear Battle Squad to agree to the other party's gamble. After which, both battle squads started the 10-minute preparation countdown to the fight. At this moment, another news suddenly popped on the online forum of the Cloud City War Zone. Mysterious Li Sec's third disciple vs Heavenly Dragon Tang Ruokan in his battle to regain lost face. Following Li Yun and Li Feng, their third disciple had finally appeared to battle. The opponent was surprisingly Tang Ruokan. Once this news came out, instantly, countless people, who had heard about the rumors of the mysterious Li sect, rushed to fill the spectator area of the fighting area where the fight between the two battle squads was going to take place. Chapter 93, Being Unlucky Serves You Right. It had to be said that the more the rumors about the mysterious Li sect spread, the more authentic they became. Large numbers of people rushed over to see whether Tang Ruokan, who had lost previously, could make a comeback or not. However, some people went to take a look at the last fight between Li Yun and Tang Ruokan several days ago. Strange. This Tang Ruokan was clearly defeated by Li Yun. Why is he fighting this Li Yunmu now? Who knows, Li Yun has probably arranged this fight. Maybe he didn't want to fight against a person who had already lost to him. I think he understands that he couldn't beat Li Yun, neither did he have the assurance of winning against that Li Feng, so he targeted the weakest one among the three disciples. Yes, that should be the case. I checked this Li Yunmu's past achievements. He should be the third disciple of that Li sect. However, his strength is far weaker than Li Yun and Li Feng. He was only able to defeat Black Crystal Fluxers previously and he has also lost many times. The reason behind Lucky Wind City rushing into top 50 was precisely because of his combination with Ling Shuang. I have heard that his innate talent is lower mid-grade. However, his battle instincts are extremely formidable, but he had only killed those weak dwarf witches in the past, so it doesn't mean that he could also trample over Tang Ruokan like his fellow disciples. Right, I can also kill a first-layer dwarf witch easily. Even the weakest among the Fluxers can also kill them, that doesn't count as anything. Haha, it seems like this Li Yunmu is out of luck today and will become a punching bag for Tang Ruokan to vent his frustrations in place of Li Yun. Hey, you all quickly come. Heavenly Dragon Tang family is certainly resourceful. Tang Ruokan has surprisingly used the Snow Guzzle blade as a stake in this bet. Truly interesting, this Snow Guzzle blade should cost around 10 million coins, isn't that right? Heavenly Dragon Tang family's financial power is indeed terrifying. Don't be noisy. The battle is finally starting. I just want to see this group battle with the main highlight being Tang Ruokan and Li Yunmu's fight. The others are just background actors. The majority weren't very optimistic about Li Yunmu's chances to win the battle. Similarly, they also weren't hopeful regarding others in the Big Bear Battle Squad. Who was their opponent? Tang Ruokan, who had become even more powerful compared to last time. If Yunmu's fellow disciple Li Yun had been there, then there was still some chance. But now, as the countdown of 10 minutes given for battle preparation started, an increasingly greater number of people began to pour into the spectator area allocated to watch the fight between the two battle squads. The number of spectators continued to increase, 3,000 7,000.23,000.38,000 50,000. In a short while, the number of spectators crossed 50,000. As the battle between battle squads was much more interesting compared to the solo fights, the number of spectators continued to increase. Moreover, the entry fee to watch this battle was 5-dimensional coins, almost double compared to solo fights whose entry fee was 3-dimensional coins. Yunmu, do you have certainty in winning? Li Daxiang asked seriously. Something which he rarely showed. His question attracted the attention of the others. brother thin, crooked teeth, lazy eye, all of them looked at him. As for Zhong Ying, she was already standing near him. Don't worry. I will deal with Tang Ruokan. Li Yunmu didn't give a direct answer as this question was clearly unnecessary. The answer to this was already clear. 10 days ago, he had defeated Tang Ruokan using the second-level Violent Blade. After 10 days, his Violent Blade had already reached the 4th level. Although the opponent should have found a way to break it, unfortunately for him, the Violent Blade had been upgraded to the 4th level. Presently, Li Yunmu had the confidence to fight evenly against Ling Shuang, so what to speak of the heavenly dragon Tang family's Tang Ruokan. Even if other people thought that it was very difficult for Li Yunmu to win, Li Yunmu was aware that perhaps only his brother, Tang Beichen, would be able to force him to use his full strength in a fight. The 10 minutes preparation time was getting close to its end. The battle between battle squads could take many different forms. One way was that both battle squads would choose one person to duel with each other. The loser had to leave the stage and the winner would remain. The winning side could continue to remain in battle and defeat subsequent enemies. If one had sufficient strength, then he could suppress all the members of the enemy battle squad by himself. This type of fight was called solo combat. The main responsibility lies with the core member, that would act as the pillar of the battle squad. Many times, if that core member of the battle squad has formidable strength, he would get rid of many members of the enemy team. The second type of battle was group battle, where everyone was transferred to a random point on the battlefield at the start. All members from both sides would fight together without any limitations. The battle squad that wipes out the enemy squad was the winner. There was still a third type of battle. It was known as Monster C-step battle. In this battle type, the battle squads were usually transferred to a location where an extremely large number of monsters were concentrated. The battle squad that survives the longest was the winner. Today, Li Yunmu and the others had chosen the group battle. It was the fastest and had the least number of rules. Both battle squads would continue to fight until all the members of one battle squad was defeated. The rule about the choice and allocation of weapons was slightly different compared to solo battles. It allowed members to choose more than one weapon. Thus, the weapons were classified as primary and support equipment. Furthermore, the primary and support equipment could be projections of real-world weapons by replicating the data of those weapons. After all, a group battle wasn't simply to temper and allow the members to gain more battle experience. Rather, it was to temper and improve the coordination between members of the battle squad. Naturally, that could not be done unless all members were using the weapons of their choice. Thus, it was decided to allow the replication of data to form a projection of real-world weapons that could be used in fights. The reason why Li Yunmu had jeered at Tang Ruokan earlier and mocked him for relying on external assistance wasn't without justification. Just now, he could clearly see a pair of golden arm protectors. From the looks of it, these arm protectors seemed to be used to support the tyrannical cross-shaped arms skill. This person, he really thinks that just by relying on formidable equipment, he could break my violent blade? The enemy's intention was easily seen through by Li Yunmu. Following which, this shameless person, Li Yunmu, who had just mocked the opponent for using external assistance, without caring about morality or principles, instantly took out the 7th-dimensional underworld Raven Bow and used it as the basis of the projection for his weapon. Haha, you want to compare weapons? Then let me give you a little shock. Li Yunmu chose the battle soldier equipment and used the underworld Raven Bow as his weapon. F***ck him, he wants to use me as a punching bag. If the opponent had only wanted to create trouble for him, then he wouldn't have taken such extreme actions. However, why did the opponent to go and create problems for other members of the Big Bear battle squad? 10 9, 8, 7, 2, 1. The last 10 seconds of the preparation phase passed in the blink of an eye. Next instant, the Big Bear battle squad was transferred to a random location. It is a rainforest on a subtropical island. As soon as Li Yunmu and the others were transferred here, they immediately identified the terrain. Island warfare. It was still alright as they weren't transferred more than 2 to 3 miles away from each other. Otherwise, it would have created problems as the forest on the island was quite dense. Quickly come and hide. Crooked teeth, brother thin, lazy eye, be ready to snipe the enemy at all times. Suddenly, a trace of excitement flashed through Li Daxiang's face. This map provided an advantage to them, as their battle squad had a hunter, a tracker, as well as a ranged attacker. After all, guerrilla tactics and ambushes were the best methods of attacking within a dense rainforest. Moreover, even though Li Daxiang was a Terminator, his chosen weapon was a flux energy-infused machine gun. Although the machine gun wasn't as awesome as the silver base weapons, he could still act as a powerful ranged combatant on this map. Wow, this fatso is a little bit sinister. He has surprisingly chosen to hide and wait for Tang Ruokan and his group to come. Heavens, 2 long-ranged attackers, 1 middle-ranged combatant and 1 hunter skilled in sneak attacks. Isn't this map a little too advantageous to the Big Bear battle squad? Haha, it will be of no use. In front of absolute strength, this little tricks will be completely useless. Yes, they would immediately be discovered if Chen Chen wanted to deal with them. However, he doesn't care about them. Chen Chen doesn't think that these people could even break his defense. What's this Li Yunmu doing? Isn't his consummate skill Violent Blade? What is he thinking taking out a ruined battle bow? Wait a minute, this guy is attacking. The enemy is still more than a kilometer away and he wants to attack. Chapter 94, Oh, External Assistance. No one had ever expected that Li Yunmu would simply throw all common sense out of the window. While the whole Big Bear battle squad had been preparing for a surprise attack, at this moment, Li Yunmu, who was hiding behind a tree, suddenly revealed himself when the enemy was more than a kilometer away. However, he didn't even start attacking and just exposed his team's position to the enemy like an idiot. Could it be that he had also used this method against the dwarf witch tribe? Something even more frightening about the situation was that Li Yunmu wasn't even using Violent Blade. Rather, he was relying on archery. Suddenly, Li Yunmu shot a flux energy arrow filled with black-colored flux energy compressed to the extreme. However, this arrow was shot at a crooked angle. Even though it would be an exaggeration to say that it was completely skewed, the arrow would miss the opponent even if they did not dodge or try to avoid it. For those who possessed flux energy and could control their body properly, this sort of arrow which wouldn't hit the mark wasn't a problem. My god, is this guy really a disciple of the mysterious Li sect? Are all of you certain that he is a fellow disciple of Li Yun and Li Feng? Perhaps not everyone who comes from the mysterious Li sect is an expert. Whether he is an expert or not, I don't know. In any case, I have confirmed today that everyone who comes from the mysterious Li sect is extremely rich. Suddenly, one of the spectators said something which hit the nail on the head. Instantly, everyone present agreed with that person's conclusion. Violent Blade, Insect Step, a simple and formidable A-grade defensive flux method. Apart from that, this Li Yunmu had now taken out a ruined battle bow. Not all ruined battle bows could be classified as a fifth-dimensional ruined weapon, however, they would all be at least an A-grade weapon. Where in the world would you find someone who was senseless enough to infuse a low-quality B-grade weapon with runes? Perhaps there was someone, but that person was certainly an idiot. After all, this Li Yunmu couldn't even target the enemy properly but had taken out a ruined battle bow that had an effective target range of more than a kilometer. If this wasn't being rich, then what was? However, the next action done by Li Yunmu challenged the baseline of what the spectators could endure. Since his first arrow hadn't hit its target, he shot a second arrow, then a third continuing up till the seventh arrow. This not only astonished all the spectators but also all the members of the enemy battle squad. Is he really Li Yun's fellow disciple? Humph, he is just some weakling. A hint of contempt flashed through Tang Ruokan's eyes. He continued advancing towards the 5 members of the Big Bear battle squad at a normal pace, neither too fast nor too slow. Since the enemy had revealed their position by themselves, that would save him the trouble of finding them. Actually, from the beginning, Tang Ruokan hadn't considered the Big Bear battle squad as a powerful enemy. Even if they had Li Yunmu, Tang Ruokan only considered him as a chess piece to draw out Li Yun. However, the next instant, the armored soldier of their team that acted as the front line sensed something strange from Li Yunmu's attack. After the last of the 7 arrows missed him, his opponent still hadn't tried to hide. Even though he didn't let his guard down, he still couldn't help but feel that this opponent that was shooting arrows was quite a silly but amusing person. With one look, it was clear that this person had just learned archery and hadn't even practiced shooting arrows at a mobile target. However, just when this armored soldier thought about closing in on Li Yunmu and twisting his head, at the moment, his field of view was suddenly covered by a black cloud. This black cloud was quickly closing in on him. Although it hadn't reached, he could clearly hear a terrifying hissing sound. Not good, this is a powerful and deadly bow skill. Quickly dodge. Another member of his battle squad behind him loudly warned him. However, it was a little too late. Just as the thought of dodging the arrow appeared in his mind, his entire spirit and consciousness suddenly turned sluggish under the effect of the strange howling sound. This howling sound instantly intimidated him and his entire consciousness was flooded with fear of the black-colored heavenly dog. With a pang sound, under the astonished gazes of several tens of thousands of spectators, a flux energy arrow that was moving at an astonishing speed crossed 1,000 meters within the blink of an eye and transformed into the projection of an incomparably enormous heavenly dog. It then opened its large mouth and swallowed the armored soldier from Tang Ruokan's battle squad. And then it exploded. That's right. After his 7 arrows missed the target, Li Yunmu used the deadly B-grade skill, Heavenly Dog Engulfs Moon, which became even stronger after it was paired together with the S.H.A.D.W's extremely long-ranged capabilities. The vitality, energy, and spirit one of this half-step black crystal fluxer were swallowed by the enormous Heavenly Dog. As Li Yunmu detonated the Heavenly Dog, the armored soldier instantly exploded into nothingness. Silence. The entire spectator area, which was originally filled with people mocking Li Yunmu, watched this scene with their mouths agape due to the frightening and astonishing power displayed in front of them. A terrifying ruined battle bow, and an extremely deadly skill. His archery skill was extremely weak just a moment ago. How did this armored soldier get instantly blown away? The deadly upper-tier B-grade skills power and potential could certainly be compared to the incomplete A-grade skills provided by the Alliance. Maybe it was even deadlier than them. However, the after effects of this arrow weren't complete yet. At the place where the armored soldier had exploded, a dimensional crack opened and a cat-sized underworld raven descended. Its blood-colored pearl-like eyes suddenly looked in another direction and it shrieked violently. Everyone could only see a black-colored shadow flash through the air before a blood-curdling scream came from another member of Tang Ruokan's battle squad. Underworld Raven. It is actually a true 5th-dimensional underworld raven. Some of the spectators that had more knowledge couldn't help yelling out in astonishment. However, everyone seemed to have completely underestimated the ferociousness of this underworld raven. The black shadow flashed once and tore off half the face of another armored soldier who was standing nearby. But at this moment, under the astonished gazes of everyone, Li Yunmu's 8th arrow used this opportunity and slammed heavily into the chest of the 2nd armored soldier. Hit success? The 8th arrow had finally hit a target. The main reason why Li Yunmu had used the deadly bow skill Heavenly Dog Engulfs Moon after firing the first 7 arrows was because he used the first 7 arrows to test and become familiar with using the bow. Everything seemed simple to him. For a fluxer who has opened the celestial point, hitting a moving target wasn't that big of a problem. If it hadn't been Li Yunmu's first time shooting an enemy from over a kilometer away, then he wouldn't have missed those 7 arrows previously. The 8th arrow. This arrow was launched in coordination with the Underworld Raven's surprise attack. It instantly took down another member of the enemy battle squad. By this time, Tang Ruokan's group had advanced by 150 m. The distance between the two battle squads was now only 850 m. However, they couldn't find any more chances to advance forward. This was because, at this time, the system's notification rang out in Li Yunmu's consciousness. See. Ding, you have gained basic comprehension of basic archery technique. The accuracy of your arrows has increased by a certain degree. Your basic archery technique is currently at the first layer. Meanwhile, as the arrow had drawn blood from the now deceased second armored soldier, another dimensional crack appeared at the place where he died. A second fifth-dimensional underworld raven descended from it. Elder brother Tang, save us. Seeing the two extremely savage underworld ravens, the remaining two members, a ranged female attacker, and a hunter began to panic. They were only ordinary crystal flux disciples. How could they last against two underworld ravens that had descended from the true fifth dimension? What a joke! They subconsciously moved towards Tang Ruokan for support. However, Li Yunmu, who had comprehended the basic archery technique, took the opportunity of the opponents lowering their guard and shot the ninth arrow. The arrow hit the lower leg of the ranged female attacker, who was then immediately attacked by two swift underworld ravens. The underworld ravens would descend as soon as the enemy's blood was drawn. This terrifying characteristic of the underworld raven S.H.A.D.W came into effect again as the third underworld raven descended from the true fifth dimension through the dimensional crack that had silently opened. At this moment, the number of spectators had already crossed 70,000. However, they seemed to have lost all words and could only watch the three underworld ravens, who had suddenly appeared, in astonishment. Chapter 95, Didn't explode like before? 3 underworld ravens, 1 for each arrow. At this very moment, a commotion was created in the spectator zone after they noticed the fact that 1 underworld raven descended for each arrow that hit its target. Tang Ruokan had already begun to feel the pressure. The situation didn't look good for him, and this moment, Li Yunmu shot his 10th arrow. This time, its target was the only remaining member of the enemy battle squad apart from Tang Ruokan, the hunter. Not good, quickly dodge. Do not allow the arrow to draw out your blood. It had to be said that as the proud son of the heavenly dragon Tang family, Tang Ruokan was quite intelligent. Within a split second, he noticed the special ability of Li Yunmu's ruined battle bow. Seeing the arrow shot, he burst forward with devil step, and at the last instant, a silver-colored light burst forth from him and his fist slammed heavily against Li Yunmu's 10th arrow. Seeing that the 10th arrow had been stopped, all the spectators breathed out a sigh of relief. Since it hadn't drawn blood, then a 4th raven wouldn't descend. But was Li Yunmu finished? He sneered at Tang Ruokan while standing on top of a tree and shot his 11th arrow. This arrow with terrifying speed crossed the distance of more than 800 m within the blink of an eye. This arrow wasn't only extremely quick, it was also extremely accurate. Everyone held their breaths, anxiously worrying whether Tang Ruokan could stop this arrow or not. Surprisingly, this time, the target of the 11th arrow was not Tang Ruokan or the hunter whom Tang Ruokan was trying to protect. Rather, it was an evolved python sitting on a tree not too far from them. This evolved python beast had a bowl-shaped mouth and was around 10 meters long. It had entrenched itself on the tree and had changed its color to camouflage itself. Unless it moved, the spectators simply wouldn't be able to discover its existence. But when the 10th arrow penetrated half an inch into the thick carcass of the python beast, seeing this scene, everyone felt as if they would collapse on the ground. Could anyone stop Li Yunmu's arrows? No, they couldn't be stopped. As this was a subtropical island's rainforest, it never lacked dimensional and evolved beasts. On the whole battleground, the battle squads had to not only defend themselves from the enemy battle squad but also defend themselves from the monsters on the island. Pang! The sound of the arrow slamming heavily into the python's body echoed through the battlefield, and the huge python was blown away from the tree even with its formidable evolved beast body and thick scales. Although this arrow wasn't able to seriously injure the python but had managed to draw blood. Next instant, a fourth underworld raven from the true fifth dimension descended through the dimensional crack that had opened at the place where the python was hit. Not good, I will have to go all out and advance forward. Tang Ruokan finally realized that his efforts to assist his teammate by stopping the arrows was futile. He burst forward with heavenly devil steps as he threw all caution to the wind and rushed towards Li Yunmu's location at full speed. He couldn't give Li Yunmu the opportunity to shoot any more arrows. But he was too late. As Li Yunmu transmitted his orders to the underworld ravens through the sage bow, the four bloodthirsty underworld ravens pounced at Tang Ruokan from all directions. The 12th arrow, without any suspense, was shot using the skill, Heavenly Dog engulfs Moon, towards the last remaining person apart from Tang Ruokan. When Heavenly Dog engulfs Moon appeared again, the enormous Heavenly Dog suddenly appeared in empty space and pounced forward with a loud roar. Before it reached the hunter, its howl had already attacked his consciousness. See. Heavenly Dog engulfs Moon, intimidation. The hunter was just a trifling ordinary crystal flux disciple. How could he resist this deadly bow skill? Instantly, under the gazes of all the spectators, this hunter was completely swallowed by the enormous Heavenly Dog. When the Heavenly Dog fell apart, the hunter's lifeless corpse fell to the ground. Although his body hadn't exploded, his vitality had been completely sucked dry by the Heavenly Dog. Return back and restore my energy. For the moment, Li Yunmu only sensed as if he had eaten some supplementary pill with great effects. Just now, more than half the energy he had used in shooting the 12 arrows was instantly restored. 13th arrow, 14th arrow, 15th arrow, 17th arrow. Continuing on, Li Yunmu's hands seemed to have gone into a spasm. Without caring about the flux energy consumed, he shot 5 successive arrows. However, none of these 5 arrows were aimed at Tang Ruokan, who was madly trying to close in on Li Yunmu. Rather, they hit the other evolved beasts within the rainforest, and within a moment, 5 more dimensional cracks to the true 5th dimension opened up and another 5 more underworld ravens attracted by blood descended. 9. There was no mistake. A total of 9 underworld ravens appeared on the battlefield. Finished. Tang Ruokan is finished. The several tens of thousands of spectators couldn't help but mumble to themselves. Every single one of them was fully convinced that Tang Ruokan was already done for. 9 underworld ravens. How could he still win against them? This ruined battle bow in Li Yunmu's hand had surpassed the A grade and was a treasured 5th dimensional weapon, a genuine weapon of the 5th dimension. The following events confirmed what all the spectators were thinking when the 5 recently descended underworld ravens joined the 4 earlier descended underworld ravens and started attacking Tang Ruokan. Facing this scene, even if it was someone else from the list of top 10 most powerful, they would also be forced to leave the stage while harboring a grudge. Ah! If you have the guts, then come fight with me using Violent Blade. By this time, Tang Ruokan had closed the distance between them to 500 meters. However, he didn't have the strength to advance forward anymore. 9 extremely savage underworld ravens had already surrounded him from all sides. Tyrannical cross-shaped arms skills. Go mad beast! Possess me! Finally, Tang Ruokan was forced to use the method he had saved up to deal with Violent Blade and deal a fatal strike to Li Yun. Shouting this, Tang Ruokan crossed his arms in front of his chest and triggered the extremely formidable defensive skill Tyrannical Cross-Shaped Arms. Suddenly, threatening golden light erupted from the pair of arm protectors he had adorned. Crap, that's golden crystal flux energy. Heavens! Don't tell me that Tang Ruokan had broken through the silver crystal grade. Look carefully, he hasn't broken through. He is using the power of the arm protectors he is wearing to boost his cultivation and temporarily use golden flux energy. As they could see it, Tang Ruokan crossed both his arms in front of him and a golden light erupted from his golden-colored arm protectors, summoning an enormous and powerful projection of a mad beast. As soon as this projection appeared, it launched a heavy fist towards the underworld raven pouncing on Tang Ruokan. Bang! The underworld raven was instantly blown into pieces of flesh and blood by the terrifying fist. The mad beast then howled ferociously and extended his hand to grab another underworld raven. The enormous fingers easily grabbed the underworld raven, who was unable to dodge. Next instant, another underworld raven was blown into pieces. What is this? Another fifth-dimensional treasure weapon. Don't tell me this was the basis of Tang Ruokan's confidence when he challenged Li Yun. No one had expected that two fifth-dimensional treasure weapons would appear in this group battle, which had begun so suddenly. Shocking, extremely shocking. Paying to spectate this battle was completely worth it. Genuine fifth-dimensional weapons had already surpassed the A-grade weapons built by humanity. They were only found buried in the ruins from the true fifth dimension and other ancient sites. However, fifth-dimensional treasure weapons had both merits and demerits. How could some fifth-dimensional treasured weapon be compared to Li Yunmu's sage bow, which had come from the true seventh dimension? Not to mention the fact that even though he couldn't use the hack machine in the wilderness these past few days, almost all the small insects and animals in Lucky Wind City's courtyard had been exterminated by the shadow. This had allowed him to open and unseal up till the 9th minor layer of the underworld raven bow, sufficient to summon 9 underworld ravens. Haha, you want to compete in using external assistance? Li Yunmu collected his sage bow back and immediately began to spectate the battle while standing on the tree. For what reason? Only because he didn't need to attack anymore. What fifth-dimensional treasured weapon? What mad beast projection? All of them were external assistance, which was only temporary and not permanent. Just when the spectators were startled and astonished, thinking that the tables had been turned. Just when even Big Xiong and his group were frightened upon seeing that this domineering mad beast projection summoned by Tang Ruokan had killed 2 underworld ravens. Suddenly, the energy and vitality of the 2 dead underworld crows seemed to have converted into ethereal form and entered the bodies of remaining 7 underworld ravens. How is it possible? Don't these remaining underworld ravens seem to have become stronger? Chapter 96, Make You Feel Despair from a Kilometer Away. Continuing on, for the first time, everyone personally witnessed the terrifying aspect of the true fifth-dimensional underworld raven, even though it only had strength at the 2nd black crystal level. Although the mad beast's projection was successful in killing 3 underworld ravens one after another, as each raven died, the remaining underworld ravens seemed to become more and more powerful. Their strength continuously increased from the 2nd layer black crystal to the peak of the 2nd layer. It then broke through to next level and entered the 3rd layer silver crystal. By the time 4 more underworld ravens were killed by Tang Ruokan and Mad Beast Projection's coordinated attack, only 2 underworld ravens remained. However, the strength of the remaining 2 underworld ravens had soared to the 4th layer golden crystal level. At this moment, not one but both of them had reached the golden crystal level. The whole battlefield had been engulfed by silence at this moment. By this time, Tang Ruokan and the Mad Beast's projection had nearly exhausted all their strength while killing the 7 underworld ravens. Suddenly, the 2 remaining savage golden crystal underworld ravens rushed forth and pounced on them. At this instant, Li Yunmu finally understood why silver crystal fluxers should run away from the mere sight of a pack of 7 underworld ravens, and why a group of 35 underworld ravens was enough to make a golden crystal fluxer withdraw. They could indeed be considered extremely savage. Every dying underworld raven would have their energy and vitality absorbed by the others. So as the time passes, the remaining underworld ravens would continue to become increasingly more powerful. In this case, even if Tang Ruokan had a precious treasure on him, dealing with 9 underworld ravens by himself would have left him completely spent. Just when he thought that he had almost wiped them out, who knew that the true boss monster was just being born? Complete despair. Apart from complete despair, the only thing he felt was endless despair. TCH, this sage bow is truly worthy of being called a treasured weapon of the 7th dimension. Li Yunmu was very happy in his heart. All types of external assistance were just fleeting clouds. While thinking this, he conveniently forgot himself. This Tang Ruokan was quite miserable for bumping into him a second time, Who knows what kind of bad blood exists between them? At this time, within the spectator zone, people started raising a commotion. Even though the outcome of this battle squad was already clear, they didn't leave for a long time. This Li Yunmu indeed deserved to be called the third disciple of the mysterious Li sect. He left everyone frightened. This wasn't because his cultivation was formidable, but rather because of his terrifying wealth. His fifth-dimensional treasured weapon had completely suppressed Tang Ruokan and his group from a kilometer away. If your possibility of closing in on him was zero, then who wouldn't be frightened? Within a short while, countless thoughts were born in the minds of several people. All of them successively inquired what were the conditions to become a disciple of the mysterious Li sect. Those with the surname Li were even brimming with excitement. Li Yunmu, whom only had pitiful amount attention paid to him, became the hottest topic at this moment. Many people with different purposes began to pay attention to him. A huge wave rushed forth to follow him. 3,000, 5,000, 10,000, 30,000, 50,000. Within a flash, the number of followers crossed 50,000. Furthermore, someone had been recording this group battle for a long time. When the video was posted on the online forum of the Cloud City Warzone, it attracted waves after waves of admiration. Ding! You have obtained 169 space elements. The group battle finally ended. From start, Li Daxing and his group just watched with their mouth agape until the battle concluded as if they were in a dream. We won! Hell, what about the sneak attack they had planned together? Who would have known that from the beginning to the end, they wouldn't be doing a thing? However, this was also favorable to them, extremely favorable indeed. For the idiot trio, it was the best news in the world. They didn't need to move a finger and won without doing anything, but their reputation would soar. It's not that they didn't want to do anything, but rather, they couldn't. The enemy battle group had been firmly rooted out by Li Yunmu alone with his bow even before they had reached the 500m mark. Terrifying fifth-dimensional treasure bow, frightening and deadly bow skill. Yes, those underworld ravens were indeed terrifying. Is this the power of fifth-dimensional weapons? Clearly, the heavenly dragon Tang family is also extremely wealthy. They even went as far as to reveal a fifth-dimensional treasure weapon. However, that Li Yunmu is even wealthier. There are disparities, even among fifth-dimensional weapons. Without caring for the spectators wagging their tongues, Li Yunmu led the Big Bear battle squad to leave the battlefield. Soon, his private account received a contract from the government network. On top of it was the written undertaking by Tang Ruokan to bet the snow Guzzle cold blade. Although the items created in the real world could not be delivered to the dimensional battlefield, since the other party had produced the projection of the genuine item, then the contract came into effect. If Tang Ruokan doesn't deliver the genuine snow Guzzle cold blade to the Big Bear battle squad within 3 days, then his personal trust credit value would be set to nil. In the present age was the age of trust value. Without trust value, the person would lose all rights to purchase resources and won't even be able to enter the virtual dimension world. Not to mention that Tang Ruokan was a person of heavenly dragon Tang family. Thus, no one was worried that he would renege on his debt. Apart from that, the Big Bear battle squad had also earned a total of 450,000 dimensional coins from this fight as the final number of spectators had crossed 90,000. I won't be polite and take the snow Guzzle cold blade. Li Yunmu immediately completed the agreement for the product to be delivered to his account. He didn't to have a hypocritical discussion with the Big Bear battle squad. From the instant they had delivered the Aurora killing justice to him, they had merged him in their circle as one of their own and he, Li Yunmu, also acted the same way. This snow Guzzle cold blade was exactly what he required right now. Otherwise, there was no need for him to put up with Tang Ruokan. Haha, it certainly is. However, we will divide the earnings from the entry fee within ourselves. You cannot demand anything. Li Daxing and his group also felt comfortable and blew steam. Who was Tang Ruokan? Wasn't he also taught a lesson by their Yunmu? After today, let's see who dares to cause trouble for them. Li Ziyi was just a temporary member of the Big Bear Battle Squad, so she didn't have any opinion regarding the distribution of the earnings. She was originally only a guest member but still received a portion of the earnings. This one battle would get her more or less 100,000 dimensional coins. That's already a significant amount. But unfortunately for her, although she originally entered the Big Bear Battle Squad and wanted to use Li Daxing's circle to get close to Li Yunmu, the matter which happened today made her feel both anger and helplessness. Hey, you aren't serious about Li Yunmu, right? At this moment, Zhong Ying had walked over. Seeing that Li Daxing and his group didn't pay any attention to them, she quietly whispered in Li Zi's ears. What? When am I not serious about it? Li Zi's face turned slightly red, but she immediately admitted in a straightforward way, with her eyes still lingering on Li Yunmu's body. Hey, I didn't mishear, right? Our goddess has surprisingly fallen for someone. If our fellow students of the Great Courtyard were aware of this, then today, who knows how many of them would have to use alcohol to drown their sorrows. Zhong Ying was extremely surprised. In the past, Li Ziyi had considered other people's feelings towards her as a game. She had never lacked male affection, but she herself hadn't refused it. On the contrary, she enjoyed that sensation. However, even after so long, she had never heard of this beautiful flower being plucked by someone. But now? Li Ziyi had surprisingly admitted that she was serious about Li Yunmu. I am afraid he won't even look at me. I have a feeling that he is quickly getting farther from us. Li Ziyi softly sighed with an expression of loneliness on her face. Don't lose hope so easily. Give it your all and make Yunmu become crazy over you. Use the time when he still hadn't spread his wings to hold him down. Zhong Ying smiled and encouraged her from the side. Chapter 97, Delivering it Personally. The news about the battle of the third disciple of the mysterious Li sect made the rumors of mysterious sects suddenly appearing, even more believable. Li Yun, Li Feng, and now Li Yunmu. None of them were weak. Although the limit of Li Yunmu's true strength couldn't be tested by Tang Ruokan, but with just a fifth-dimensional treasure bow, he was able to blow away Tang Ruokan, who had returned after becoming stronger. It could be clearly seen that the reserves of the mysterious power were truly terrifying. What's most important was that all spectators weren't brainless. Even though Li Yunmu had only used a bow 1,000 meters away to defeat Tang Ruokan and hadn't revealed much of his strength, the majority of these people would always remember his terrifying offensive bow skill. It was clear from this battle that this deadly offensive bow skill didn't rely on the attacking power of fifth-dimensional weapons. Rather, the skill itself truly had sufficient long-range destructive power. Furthermore, adding to the fact that Li Yunmu also used skills like Violent Blade and Insect Step, any competent fluxer would never think that Li Yunmu's combat strength was weak by any means. Instantly, many of those who had intentions of challenging the Li sect's third disciple disappeared. Those who didn't have strength equal to or greater than half-step golden crystal fluxer and didn't want to suffer a miserable fate like Tang Ruokan just gave up on the idea. Although the rumors on the dimensional battlefield are somewhat exaggerated, these three people do have some strength. However, I don't know whether they can defeat a formidable third-layer silver crystal fluxer with their first-layer cultivation in the real world. In my opinion, even if they battle in the real world, the results should more or less be the same. The main reason why they can defeat opponents with cultivations 2 layers higher is due to their sect's profound reserves. In the territory governed by our Cloud City, there had only been 3 sects until now. But now, it seems that a 4th one will soon appear. This is a great news. Among the groups of silver crystal fluxers, plenty of discussions about this matter were happening at this moment. Since they had the same cultivation as Tang Ruokan, the results of this battle had a much more profound impact on them. Although Tang Ruokan had lost in the dimensional battlefield, this didn't necessarily mean that he would also lose to the 3 disciples of the Li sect in the real world. After all, a significant amount of a fluxer's strength was concentrated in his crystal armor. As the dimensional battlefield didn't allow the fluxers to use their crystal armor, the higher the cultivation of a fluxer, the greater the handicap they would experience. Although not many people agreed with the results of this battle, but all the powerful ones among the silver crystal fluxers were clear in their mind that without a doubt, the strength of these three disciples of the Li sect was approximately on the same level as them. As for the fifth-dimensional treasure weapon revealed by Li Yunmu at the dimensional battlefield, although many people coveted it, considering the mysterious power backing him, they could only bury these desires deep in their heart and didn't dare to forcefully take it. As for Tang Ruokan, these people were even more afraid of trying such a thing against him. They were all clearly aware of the heavenly dragon Tang family's strength. Naturally, there was another reason for this. The fifth-dimensional treasure weapons weren't extremely rare, and for the truly powerful fluxers, these weapons weren't enough to shake their mental fortitude. If it had been a sixth-dimensional treasure weapon, which was rarer than phoenix feathers or Kylan's horn, then even the backing of the heavenly dragon Tang family couldn't save Tang Ruokan. Li Yunmu and his group withdrew from the dimensional battlefield and returned back to the Lucky Wind Great Courtyard. By this time, he also learned about the profits obtained by Li Yun and Li Feng from hacking the dimensional battlefield. Both of them had fought 15 successive battles and had earned a total of 865 space elements. If the 100-something space elements earned by Li Yunmu were also added, then in one day, Li Yunmu's harvest of space elements easily crossed 1,000. If the system hadn't stopped Li Yun and Li Feng, these two shadow avatars from hacking, then his gain of space elements for the day would have been even higher. Naturally, if Li Yunmu had continued with the hack, the space elements gained would have increased. However, how could he act so stupidly? Although the two shadows Li Yun and Li Feng don't feel exhaustion or fatigue, they were real humans in the eyes of everyone. He could not possibly make them hack in the dimensional battlefield for the whole day without stopping. After careful calculation, he had 1,186 space elements after combining the profits for the day with the number of space elements he had beforehand. Ding! The amount of space elements that you have has now crossed 1,000. The system has detected that the host's main priority right now is the heavenly world. The system recommends the host to use an appropriate amount of space elements on the heavenly world to enlarge it. After its intelligence was upgraded to the second level, the system had indeed become much smarter. Presently, it had gained a much better understanding of its host's present situation and could plan which aspect of his cultivation should be upgraded first and which could be delayed. However, the more Li Yunmu thought about it, the more confused he became. Finally, he couldn't bear it anymore and asked to confirm. So space elements can also expand the heavenly world? Yes, they can. Space elements are the source of the purest stable flux energy which is absorbed by a fluxer's body. Since stable flux energy crystals can expand the heavenly world, so can space elements. Dang! Li Yunmu didn't say anything for a long time. He kept thinking about whether or not using space elements to expand the heavenly world would be worth it. According to the system's next explanation, 100 space elements provided roughly the same amount of energy as one second-layer black crystal. If Li Yunmu used 1,000 space elements, then wouldn't the area of land in the heavenly world barely increase by 10 square m? He kept pondering for a long while before he finally decided not to use them. It wasn't a question of whether it was worth it or not. Rather, his current amount of space elements was small. He still hadn't collected all the required flux energy battle skills to reach his desired war god class. So how could he throw all his space elements on the heavenly world? After all, he could obtain flux crystals by killing monsters or could purchase them from the market. However, space elements could only be acquired by using the hack in the dimensional battlefield. Comparing between the two of them, Li Yunmu still felt that these space elements were more precious. He had planned to accumulate 10,000 space elements and exchange them for an A-grade cultivation method related to strengthening the bones. Whether the physical body of humans was powerful or not, apart from flesh and meat, the skeletal system played the most important role. Just like how whether a house was sturdy or not depended on the main structural framework of the house. Hacking in the dimensional battlefield not only earned him space elements but also provided a way to earn a considerable amount of money through the entry fees. By the time Li Yunmu checked his personal account on his stellar COMM, his earning of the day had been transferred by the battlefield official. After deducting the 10% commission charged by the battlefield official, Li Yun and Li Feng had earned a total of 36,000 dimensional coins today. Furthermore, adding in the amount of money previously earned by Li Yunmu from various sources, the present amount of cash in his account had surprisingly crossed 70,000. Not bad, this is not bad. This amount of money is sufficient to buy a one-person war chariot. Li Yunmu nodded his head in satisfaction. A single-person war chariot was first on his priority list right now. It would allow him to move around better within the wilderness. It would also increase his flexibility and efficiency compared to when he was on foot. The next stop was the Devil Ox Valley battle zone. It was said that the Steel Castle would only stop there for 3 days. This time, there wasn't a strict rule that newcomer fluxers must form battle squads to train. Hence, Li Yunmu had already started to prepare on going solo for the training. For now, he must continue with the dimensional battlefield hack and earn more space elements and money. Just at this point in time, a voice suddenly came through his door. Yunmu, that Tang Ruokan is here. He, after losing in the battle, he now had come to bother you in the real world. Crooked Teeth Jiang said without a worry in the world. Although a person of Tang Ruokan's status had initially made him feel afraid, but the present Big Bear battle squad wasn't the trash battle squad like before. He came? Alone. Li Yunmu's expression turned strange. Within 10 days, he had absorbed space elements from him twice. So why has this guy come here instead of dealing with problems in his cultivation base? How did he still have the energy to come find him? Could it be that he had come to personally deliver the snow Guzzle cold blade? Once he thought of this, a trace of zealousness was born in his heart. Chapter 98, Another Secret Bet. What a surprise, you are completely fine. Seeing Tang Ruokan who had come to find him, Li Yunmu was a little flabbergasted. The system had previously said if he absorbs space elements from the same person within 10 days, then there was an extremely high possibility that that person's cultivation might become unstable. In more critical case, that person might also lose all his current cultivation. However, nothing was absolute in this world. Moreover, the system had only said that there was an extremely high possibility that the above-mentioned would happen. Hence, there was an extremely low possibility of nothing happening as well. Surprisingly, Tang Ruokan didn't seem to be having any trouble with his cultivation base at this moment. This also clearly showed that these proud sons of heaven from powerful clans have a sturdy cultivation base. Apart from having profound cultivation resources compared to ordinary fluxers, their strength wasn't a fluke. At this moment, Li Yunmu was completely sure of this fact. What problem should I have? I haven't lost to you, I only lost to that fifth-dimensional treasure weapon of yours. Tang Ruokan sneered but still kept his promise. He removed the long jade box from his back and laid it on the table. This is the Snow Guzzle Cold Blade. This jade box is similarly created specifically for this blade using the Heavenly Mountains Millennium Cold Essence White Jade. When you are not using the cold blade, you should keep it inside the jade box for constant nourishment. This will make the freezing energy of the blade itself become stronger. Okay, I know. At this moment, Li Yunmu's gaze was fixated on the jade box. He couldn't help but acknowledge that Tang Ruokan's moral character was quite good. The agreement only included the Snow Guzzle Cold Blade as the stake in their bet. However, this person had also delivered an equivalently precious jade box together with the blade. No need to thank me. I just don't want someone to ruin such good blade, that's all. Being defeated by the underworld raven Sage Bao seemed to still be gnawing at Tang Ruokan's mind. Naturally, his attitude wasn't very good. However, Li Yunmu didn't argue with him and just let the matter go. He faintly smiled and opened the jade box slowly. Instantly, the whole room was filled with cold energy seeping out of the box while the temperature dropped many times. Good blade! Feeling excited, Li Yunmyo couldn't help but praise it loudly. Presently, this blade could only be considered as a B-grade weapon. That was because he still hadn't infused it with runes and a weapon spirit. Speaking of the materials used to build this blade, the Millennium Cold Essence and Black Blood Ore could certainly be considered as humanity's highest quality materials in the present times. The Snow Guzzle Cold Blade's name wasn't in vain due to its innate ability to give rise to a trace of cold energy. Even a golden crystal flux disciple couldn't completely resist the cold energy of this blade, let alone speak of fluxers who were less powerful. Similarly, apart from producing cold energy, it also had an additional ability to drink blood. A rare variation of black blood ore enabled this cold blade to possess the additional characteristic to drink blood. The more it drank the blood of the enemy it had defeated, the higher the blood essence quality rises and the stronger the baleful aura around the cold blade becomes. If it was nourished properly, then the baleful aura could make the enemy lose more than half their combat strength. This blood-drinking and nourishing property weren't shown by the blade yet, as this cold blade still lacked a formidable soldier soul. Good, our agreement is now concluded. I have destroyed the contract. With a wave of his hand, Li Yunmyo collected cold blade in his storage batch. Following which, he immediately destroyed the contract. Any nonsense. Quite straightforward. Now that our agreement is complete, let us battle again. I haven't lost yet. Standing at his location, Tang Ruokan's battle intent burst out of his body. It was quite difficult to stop his desire to battle. However, Li Yunmyo was left gobsmacked. Why were these people so troublesome? Still want to fight? Ling Shuang was like this. And now? This Tang Ruokan was following in her footsteps. Do these people have some sort of mental illness? Why don't they take some medicine for it? There is no use in fighting again. Even if you used that fifth-dimensional treasure weapon that projects a mad beast, you still won't be able to stop my violent blade. Li Yunmyo shook his head and said, showing his complete disinterest in fighting. That won't do, let's fight again. As long as you don't use violent blade to defeat me, all the previous fights won't be counted. Immediately, Tang Ruokan became frantic. He seemed to have gone completely crazy. After careful examination, Li Yunmyo noticed that absorbing space elements seems to have no effect on this person. However, it might also be that no major problems revealed themselves, as this person's cultivation was quite sturdy. If I said I won't fight, that means I won't fight. Li Yunmyo said to him coldly, completely ignoring the other party's battle intent or his crazy behavior. From childhood, he had been amenable to coaxing but not coercion. In any case, he had even defeated a king-grade clan chief, so what about a silver-grade fluxer from the top 10 most powerful? Tang Ruokan was unable to threaten him even if he had a fifth-dimensional treasure weapon. This time, if you use violent blade to defeat me fair and square, I will hand over the cultivation relaying globe of the tyrannical cross-shaped arm skill to you. Tang Ruokan firmly stared at Li Yunmyo. Tyrannical cross-shaped arm skill. Li Yunmyo's expression changed, but he still didn't accept. Not enough. He had to accept that the tyrannical cross-shaped arm skill was quite enticing to him. This was a formidable B-grade battle skill that focused on defense. It was extremely famous. However, the Heavenly Dragon Tang family didn't teach it to outsiders. Hence, it basically hadn't spread to the outside. It must be known that battle skills of the same grade were divided into ordinary and extraordinary. This tyrannical cross-shaped arm skill belongs to latter. Furthermore, if it was repaired and completed by the system, then he was quite hopeful that this B-grade defensive battle skill could break through to the A grade. However, Li Yunmyo still didn't agree. There was no need to ask why. He was quite headstrong and had the system. Hence, which kind of cultivation method or battle skill didn't he have access to? At most, he would need to spend some time to accumulate the required space elements. Then what you do need? As long as my heavenly dragon Tang family has it, I can make the decision to give it to you. Tang Ruokan had gone completely crazy. He had also made Li Yunmu, who was completely unable to make any sense out of these proud sons of heaven, go crazy. Why were these people so fixated on victory or defeat? When he thought about it, he realized that even Big Xiong was also unable to accept defeat. Who could have known that this Tang Ruokan was even crazier than him? He was the perfect example of a fool having a lot of money. However, when he observed Tang Ruokan's earnest expression, he immediately understood. This matter had been his sore spot. Apparently, from the time Li Yunmu used his violent blade to chop him into two, that defeat had already become a shadow in Tang Ruokan's mental cultivation. If he doesn't take up this matter gnawing at his heart, then perhaps his future cultivation would become difficult. Instantly, Li Yunmu felt that he was extremely fortunate. Fortunately, the system's cultivation method had nothing to do with his mental fortitude. Otherwise, this matter would be quite troublesome. If Li Yunmu had any mental state, then it would be only one, that was only me. He didn't want too many problems and only wanted to do what his heart desires. I want your Tang family's secret notes containing the translation and explanation about the true fifth dimension's language and symbols. Li Yunmu suddenly said. Secret notes on the true fifth dimension's language? It is impossible for me to get that for you. Tang Ruokan was startled when he heard it and declined immediately. It wasn't that he didn't want to, rather, the object requested by the other party was too extreme. What were the notes on the true fifth dimension's language? Frankly speaking, these were the translation of the true fifth dimension's language. However, these were the Tang family's knowledge reserve obtained after experiencing many things. It could also be said that these were the secrets that made up the profound reserves of large clans. They absolutely could not be spread to others. How could he lightly hand them over to the other party? Sometimes, knowledge was worthy of being treasured even more than some A-grade cultivation method, like in this case. I will not scam you. I will be using this as a stake. Li Yunmu was also clear that he had indeed gone too far this time. He thought for a moment before he revealed a blood-red ball of light. Dark flux energy? It really is a source of dark flux energy. Tang Ruokan absent-mindedly cried out. That's right, this is a dark flux energy source. If you beat me, it will be yours. But if you lose to me again under my violent blade, then that tyrannical cross-shaped arm skill and the translation notes of the true fifth dimension's language will be mine. I also want you to not trouble me with another challenge. Li Yunmu said while attentively watching Tang Ruokan's reaction. Chapter 99, Who Won? Dark Flux Energy. Tang Ruokan's gaze was firmly fixed on the blood-red colored ball of lightning in Li Yunmu's hand. It was exactly as described in the records of the heavenly dragon Tang family. He would never be able to casually take out a dark flux energy source and used it as a betting stake. Apparently, there really was a mysterious sect behind this Li Yunmu. Initially, he wasn't very convinced of those rumors. But now, not even in a shred of doubt remained. If he could obtain this dark flux energy source, then his strength would certainly rise up to the next level. Why were the materials used to create the snow Guzzle cold blade known as the absolute pinnacle materials? That was because, from a certain aspect, the trace of 1,000 cold essences freezing power could be considered as dark flux energy source. However, this dark flux energy could only be drawn using external weapons. Hence, it could not be classified as one's body containing it. Furthermore, its power increases as it matures. That's why these materials were considered absolute pinnacle quality materials. From this, the worth of dark flux energy could clearly be seen. Within their heavenly dragon Tang family, only Tang Baichen had the qualifications to possess it. Even though he was considered as the Tang family's third strongest among the current generation, he still doesn't have the qualifications to obtain dark flux energy bestowed by the Tang family. What do you require the true fifth dimension's translation notes for? Tang Ruokan's heart began to throb loudly. That is none of your concern. You only need to reply whether you agree with this bet or not. Li Yunmu started to get a little annoyed. If you can ensure that only you will read it and that you won't pass it on to a second person, then I will agree to this bet. A hint of craziness was revealed on Tang Ruokan's face. At this stage, he was unable to renounce this bet. Although, after Li Yunmu had taken out the dark flux energy and was ready to use it as a bet, Tang Ruokan had a bad feeling about this. Perhaps, the reason why was because the opponent being confident meant that there was a high possibility of him being defeated by violent blade. However, he didn't have any means of retreat. Regardless of whether it was the sore point in his heart or the dark flux energy, he wanted to make the bet. Not because of anything else, it was just because he didn't want to remain as the third among the new generation of the Tang family for eternity. All right, you are on. Li Yunmu thought for a moment and replied in a firm tone. Although he could not let another person see it, passing it to the system shouldn't be a problem. In any case, the opponent's meaning was that he shouldn't leak it out to the world. Only if Li Yunmu had become mentally ill would he leak the Tang family's fifth dimension language's translation. Doing so would have no benefits for him. Furthermore, he would court unnecessary trouble for himself. Not to mention that if the Tang family knew, they would chase him till the end to the world until he dies. Without any hesitation, Li Yunmu decisively signed his name next to his opponent on a secret betting contract. Come then. Allow me to have a look at your Li Sek's violent blade skill and see whether it can truly break my secret technique. The contract was signed. The both of them went to the lawn of Lucky Wind Great Courtyard that very night. Before the event, many people had found out that Tang Ruokan had personally come to look for trouble. Thus, many fellow students of the Lucky Wind Great Courtyard had gathered outside Li Yunmu's room long ago. Even seniors like Tang An had also arrived after hearing the news. When they heard that these two were going to battle in the real world this time, everyone was instantly thrilled. Could it be that Li Yunmu could truly defeat a third-layer silver crystal fluxer with his first-layer cultivation in the real world? But this was Tang Ruokan of the Heavenly Dragon Tang family, one of the top 10 most powerful newcomer. Although his combat strength could not be considered at the peak of the silver crystal layer, it wasn't too far from the peak. As he had personally come to battle with a junior like Li Yunmu in the real world, it made it clear that to Tang Ruokan, Li Yunmu was already a character who could be considered as being on the same level as him. Otherwise, being a proud son of heaven, no one could force him to lower his status to battle with Li Yunmu. With time, more and more students of the Lucky Wind Great Courtyard gathered to watch. However, because of the secret betting contract, they weren't able to personally witness this battle as Tang Ruokan fished out an item from his storage badge. When he activated this item, a dark protective cover with a diameter of 30 m instantly appeared between the both of them. Friends. Those who enter this protective cover will be considered an enemy of the Tang family. Tang Ruokan threw down this line and took the initiative to enter the protective cover. It had to be said that this line was indeed extremely domineering. However, given his background, he did indeed have the qualifications to say this while facing the members of Lucky Wind Great Courtyard. The expressions of Tang An and the other seniors turned ugly, but no one dared to advance even half a step forward. Heavenly Darkness Curtain. The protective cover piqued Li Yunmu's interest. This was the current most advanced tent product for the wilderness. It was far more sturdy and robust than the Type 3 fortress used by Li Daxiang and gang. People without a certain amount of influence and background could not hope to obtain this Heavenly Darkness cover. Regardless of whether it was its warning system or defensive abilities, the Heavenly Darkness cover outmatched the Type 3 fortress by a few grades. Naturally, there were many people in Lucky Wind Great Courtyard who had a cultivation of silver crystal layer, and there were even half-step golden crystal fluxers. If they really wanted to enter, they could have broken down the defense of the Heavenly Darkness cover by attacking together. However, no one dared to do so because of the line Tang Ruokan threw down. Li Yunmu had once again experienced the wealth and influence of this world's powerful clans. He laughed before following behind Tang Ruokan and entering the heavenly darkness cover. Once he stepped inside, he felt as if he had entered a small world. The darkness heavenly cover stopped all sorts of outside noise, visibility, temperature, weather, and wind from influencing the environment inside. The people standing outside wouldn't have any idea about the situation of the fight inside. After a long while had passed, specifically, a quarter of an hour, both of them came back outside with wooden expressions. Even if everyone wanted to get some information from their expression, both of them simply didn't reveal anything. Hope to see you again. Tang Ruokan looked at Li Yunmu with a complex expression but didn't say much. He then hurriedly left after collecting the heavenly darkness cover. F***C.K, so much secrecy. Yunmu, quickly tell who won and who lost in the real fight between you two. Crooked Teeth Jiang's heart was jumping like a cat. As soon as he saw Li Yunmu, he jumped at him and asked. However, before this idiot was done talking, Li Daxiang pulled him back. Moron, why do you want to get involved with the matter concerning the heavenly dragon Tang family? Crooked Teeth Jiang was indeed lacking in the Department of Intelligence. However, Li Daxiang turned out to be a reasonable person at the most important time. Li Yunmu had never expected that Big Xiang would say something that a person with a brain would say. Although the others also wished to know the outcome, no one came forward to ask because of Li Daxiang's warning. They didn't have the qualifications to learn about the heavenly dragon Tang family's secrets. Otherwise, they might get themselves burned. Good. This matter shouldn't be spread outside the Lucky Wind Great Courtyard. You all neither heard nor saw anything tonight. Tang An commanded to restrict the information about the matter. Li Yunmu finally breathed a sigh of relief. Tonight's secret bet would finally stop here. As for who won and who lost, there naturally wasn't any suspense. This Tang Ruokan had indeed come prepared against the violent blade skill. Not only did this person came equipped with a treasured fifth-dimensional arm protector, he had also learned a break-off secret technique. If not for the fact that he had only just recently started cultivating this technique and hadn't gained a proper comprehension of this technique, then Li Yunmu's fourth-level violent blade would probably have been stopped today. But unfortunately, the opponent didn't know that regardless of whether it was Li Yun or Li Yunmu himself, how could the violent blade used against him today be at the same level as 10 days ago? Chapter 100, Success. The power of the 18 stacked chops of the 4th level violent blade together with the final critical leap strike's power made Tang Ruokan's secret technique lose its effectiveness. Finally, even though he used his full strength to resist the first 18 strike, when Li Yunmu used the violent blade critical leap strike after the 18 strikes, the final bit of resistance by the opponent was broken. He had to acknowledge that it was a dangerous victory. However, he had still won. Li Yunmu hadn't used the recently obtained Thunder Dark Flux energy in this battle. Hence, this couldn't really be called a difficult victory. But this one fight was enough to ring his alarm bells. When Fluxers use their crystal armor, their true strength far surpasses the strength they show on the dimensional battlefield. The higher the grade of the crystal armor, the more difficult it was to overcome the barrier between the different layers. This time's opponent had fully congealed his silver crystal armor and was only a step away from refining golden flux energy. If the fact that Li Yunmu didn't use dark flux energy wasn't counted, then it was indeed quite hard to achieve victory. Taking this fight into consideration, if I use Aurora Killing Justice, dark flux energy, and add the two shadows into the mix, it seems like I can barely fight on even grounds with a half-step golden crystal fluxer. Or maybe I am a little weaker than that. But Li Yunmu didn't feel depressed. After all, regardless of combat strength that allowed him to fight opponents several grades higher than himself, his cultivation wasn't very high. Hence, he was quite satisfied with being able to fight evenly with opponents 3 layers higher than him. But it still wasn't enough. He desired to obtain at least enough strength to allow him to move confidently in the 5th dimension without feeling a threat from anyone. He had to strengthen himself and obtain more cultivation resources. While thinking about this and greeting people along the way, Li Yunmu returned to his small cabin without revealing any information about the result of the fight. Soon, he took out 2 items, the tyrannical cross-shaped arm skill and the translation manuscript of the language used in the true 5th dimension. System, help me scan and duplicate this 5th-dimensional language's manuscript. Li Yunmu fished out the secret manuscript containing the translation of 5th dimension's language that Tang Ruokan had secretly lost to him and passed it to the system. This was a secret bet between the 2 of them. Since both sides had agreed to fulfill their agreement, this wastrel Tang Ruokan had even kept it a secret from the Tang family. Thus, Li Yunmu could not keep a hard copy of this book. Otherwise, if it was revealed one day, then it would cause a lot of trouble for him. However, it doesn't matter. With the system's intelligence, as long as it spends a little bit time, the system could easily scan and store its contents. The system currently doesn't have the power to assist the host in such matters. If the host wants to increase the abilities of the system, then the system requests the host to increase its intelligence to the 3rd level. Done. Li Yunmu didn't know whether to laugh or cry upon hearing this. He immediately used 300 space elements to upgrade the shadow hack system without any hesitation. After all, he had more than 1,100 space elements right now. Since he hadn't been able to store it, he upgraded the system's intelligence to next level and thereupon, wanted to use another 400 space elements to upgrade the system's intelligence to the 4th level. However, the system informed him that the system's level of intelligence could not be increased successively. After every upgrade, the system requires time to be proficient in using all the functions of the new upgrade. Hence, he could only upgrade to the 4th level after 10 days. Hearing this, Li Yunmu didn't say anything and silently waited for the system's upgrade progress bar to reach 100%. After upgrading its intelligence, the processing abilities of the system had become even faster. It had become even agiler in dealing with things. Li Yunmu didn't have to wait for a long time for this upgrade. Within roughly 30 minutes, the sound of the system's notification suddenly echoed in his consciousness. See. Ding, the system's intelligence have been successfully upgraded to the 3rd level. The system has gained an additional function with this upgrade: shadow hunting. Shadow hunting. A hint of curiosity passed through Li Yunmu's eyes. Soon, detailed information related to shadow hunting appeared within his consciousness. See. This newly added ability, shadow hunting, made his blood boil with excitement. Shadow hunting. Shadow hunting's target, as long as the host places a shadow hunting mark on an enemy, then from 1,000 kilometers away, the host can release all the shadows to hunt down this marked target. Pay attention, presently, this shadow hunting uses the lowest grade shadow hunting mark. With this, the host can only hunt the hunting target within a diameter of 1,000 kilometers. Moreover, this ability can only be triggered during the night. After reading it completely, Li Yunmu was extremely excited. Finally, after upgrading the system to the 3rd level, the abilities of the shadow had become even more dynamic. Unlike before when it only had one ability to use shadow hack. This shadow hunting ability was extremely formidable. It wasn't like Li Yunmu hadn't experienced it before. He had experienced it when he had faced a threat to his life from the half-step golden crystal fluxer assassin. At that time, sensing the threat to its master's life, this shadow hunting ability was triggered within the young shadow. However, the difference in the strength between the young shadow and the golden crystal fluxer was quite large at that time. Hence, the final conclusion wasn't that great. However, the present situation was different. Now, Li Yunmu had congealed the rainbow-grade crystal armor. Furthermore, he also possessed the underworld Raven Sage Bow and had comprehended the world-killing fist, Aurora-killing justice, and Heavenly Dog engulfs moon, 3 killing skills from 3 different classes. Not to mention the fact that he presently didn't only have the young shadow, but also had shadow 2, Li Feng. Tisk tisk, even heaven knows that the present shadow hunting ability had been upgraded multiple times. The only unfortunate thing was that it was only effective within a diameter of 1,000 kilometers. Although a 500 km radius was quite small, as the system gets upgraded, the effective area would continue to increase. This makes it an extremely powerful long-distance hunting ability. Li Yunmu was looking forward to using it. After being upgraded to the 3rd level, the system had finally gained the ability to assist Li Yunmu in certain other affairs. Li Yunmu decisively handed over the translation manuscript of 5th-dimensional language to the system for scanning. Although the Tang family's translation script didn't contain the translation of all the words and symbols of the 5th dimension, it still provided the translation of about 70% of entire the 5th-dimensional language. It was sufficient for Li Yunmu to translate the 6 destroyed runic pages. From now on, whenever he encounters the 5th-dimensional language in the future, he wouldn't be like a blind person. While the system was scanning the translation manuscript, Li Yunmu decisively entered the cultivation relaying globe of the tyrannical cross-shaped arm skill and began to practice it over and over again. It was unknown who had researched and created cultivation relaying globes. Its existence clearly made sure that apart from the specific cultivator, it was simply impossible to spread the cultivation method or battle skill to a third person. Li Yunmu had to accept that the birth of cultivation relaying globes closely fitted the intentions of the rulers of humanity. If all of humanity acted as one without any selfish motives and every fluxer could learn A-grade or even sage-level battle skills, then perhaps humanity would have already become the dominant species on Earth long ago. However, when thinking of this from the perspective of the person who was imparting the skills to others, Li Yunmu didn't feel that there was any problem with the current system. Even he didn't want to impart the skills he had learned to others that casually. If everyone's strength became comparable or even more powerful than his, then wouldn't that be completely outrageous? Wouldn't he receive threats from people every day? Anyway, Li Yunmu's understanding regarding fist techniques was quite bad. This time, he had used 87 tries within the cultivation transmitting space before he gained an initial understanding of the tyrannical cross-shaped arm skill's true essence. This large number of tries caused beads of cold sweat to appear on his body due to fear. It was a fact that if he had been unable to comprehend this skill after 100 times, then this cultivation relaying globe would have automatically disappeared. Hence, he was extremely fortunate. System, I want to repair this tyrannical cross-shaped arms skill. Ding! The system has detected that the tyrannical arms cross-shaped skill learned by the host is currently only of B-grade quality and only has 37 layers. If the host wishes to repair it, it will cost 3,300 ability points. After it is repaired, it would be upgraded and would be considered an A-grade battle skill. It can then be cultivated to 70 layers. Does the host wish to repair it? Wow! Li Yunmu had really obtained a pleasant surprise today. He really hadn't expected that an extremely effective defensive skill of extraordinary nature could truly be upgraded to an A-grade skills after being repaired. With this active defensive skill, his defense would once again reach the next level. This was a huge profit. He wondered. When Tang Ruokan sees that the tyrannical cross-shaped arm skill given by him to Li Yunmu had become even stronger than when he used it, how beautiful would his expression be? Li Yunmu didn't dare to think too much about this. Although Tang Ruokan was a wastrel, removing his annoying personality, his moral character was still quite good. Li Yunmu had successively conned him of 3 treasures worth a considerable amount of money. At this moment, even he felt quite embarrassed about it. However, he couldn't do anything about it. Who told that guy to insist on challenging him again and again? That guy really has dog *T luck.